Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Let's Talk ABM with me, Declan Mulkeen, CMO of account-based marketing agency Strategic ABM. ABM is one of the hottest B2B strategies right now, helping companies to win, grow and retain their most important accounts. This podcast allows me to spend some time talking to account-based marketing leaders about their ABM programs and share their insights with other B2B marketers, wherever you are on your ABM journey. So today I'm joined by Fabiana Brunetti, who's the Director, Global ABM Worldwide Strategies at Pure Storage. Fabiana, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, let's kick off talking about your journey towards ABM and how you arrived there. I think when we were talking previously to this recording, you mentioned that you'd been, or you had rather, quite an extensive background in field marketing before you transitioned to ABM about 3 years ago, I think it was. Tell us, and you mentioned quite a few things to me which kind of struck a chord really in terms of the connection between field marketing and ABM. So tell us a little bit about how you think that experience in field marketing kind of shaped your view of ABM and kind of the lessons that you brought over from field marketing.
Yes, of course. Look, film marketing is fundamentally about supporting sales goals, right? Whether we are putting together programs that drive pipeline creation or accelerate deal progression. Um, I think my film marketing background, especially the one in enterprise, has significantly shaped my approach to ABM. I believe field marketers make exceptional ABM practitioners because of the deep collaboration with sales and their shared passion for driving business growth. That is whether you're covering for a region or a curated set of accounts. I would say that the three main things that have carried over has been the strong partnership with sales, the customer first mindset, right? The outside in approach that helps ensures that the programs addresses real customer challenges rather than internal assumptions. And then the cross-functional collaboration. I mean, ABM, it is a team sport. And to deliver meaningful account-specific experiences, we have to partner closely with everyone. The account executive, the sales engineers, customer success teams, SDR, vertical SMEs, and you name it, to create something really amazing for our accounts.
I think it's an interesting point there, because obviously one of the challenges that everyone finds with account-based marketing is that kind of alignment. And almost what you're saying is that field marketers already come with that alignment because they've had to do it already.
Right. Yes. We have to partner with sales. And I think the only difference is that in field marketing, you tend to cover a region when there's a list of hundreds of accounts. And with ABM, you tend to have a smaller list of accounts. But the partnership should be the same with sales.
Yeah. And so maybe a career point here, perhaps for anybody listening who's in a field marketing role, what advice would you give them in that kind of transition towards ABM?
Yeah, my biggest advice would be to be bold, to take the initiative to pilot maybe a program that demonstrates the value of ABM. You can get certified. If you can get certified, that will be great. I got certified and it taught me a lot more. I think it was very important in my transition to learn from mentors. Because through the certification, you get a mentor. And so when I was piloting my one-to-one ABM program, I had a mentor with me. So I didn't feel like I was doing this alone. Start with partnering with sales leadership to identify who your top account list. And I do feel like that's also paramount because you need a strong commitment from sales up front, as ABM will require a lift on their side as well. Once you pilot a one-to-one ABM approach with a single account, or maybe you pick 3 to 5 accounts and you can have a cluster, a one-to-few ABM program, that could help you scale your efforts while maintaining personalization. But it all depends if you are ready for a one-to-one or if you need to go after maybe 3 to 5 based on where you're at. I would also say maybe partner with an agency, right, that has that experience. That will be another suggestion. and invest time building those connections with ABM leaders. There's a lot to learn from their experiences. Um, and I would, yeah, agency, sales, ABM leaders, and maybe getting certified if that's supported by the company where you're at.
Yeah, I think some great advice there, Fabiana. I think also one thing you were saying to me before, kind of one of the differentiators between a field marketer and an ABM, obviously a field marketer may well have hundreds of accounts that they have to sit across, whereas obviously ABM is far more targeted. When you're looking when you transitioned into your role there at Pure Storage, and you were bringing that kind of field marketing expertise with you and your ABM expertise with you, how did you kind of how did you kind of approach that there when you were looking at ABM to launch or to relaunch at Pure Storage? How did you see perhaps taking the best of both worlds into this new world that you were building?
Yeah, yeah, great question. We distinguish film marketing and ABM based on goals and scope, right? Our regional marketing managers support sales with regional goals. And like I mentioned, they typically activate one to few activities in key metro areas. Um, n- they may run ABM like programs for a list of accounts or provide extra support to top accounts, but ultimately, their primary responsibility is to help the region achieve its overall targets. With ABM practitioners, they have account-specific goals, right? They work from a defined list of accounts and focus on driving not only revenue growth, but also strengthening the relationships and enhancing our reputation within those top accounts. Um, we have integrated best practices across both disciplines to elevate the results. For example, our ABM team supports specific verticals and create vertical specific content that can be easily personalized at the account or persona level. So we frequently share those templates with the field teams to amplify their efforts. Another example is account intelligence. In ABM, we rely heavily on insights from specialized tools to better understand key accounts and inform our strategy. So we ensure that these insights and the tools are shared. With the film marketing, we have created a process. It's based on a ticket support where they can tap into our tools. Not everyone has. We don't have that many licenses, right? So we try to find ways to share um, those insights with others through a ticket process.
I think that's quite a novel way. I haven't actually heard about that before. So I just it's great to kind of get that definition in terms of field marketing. You think about it as more helping a region achieve its goals, whereas obviously with account-based marketing, you're thinking specifically about helping, for want of a better word, helping accounts achieve their goals, right? Whether that's how you're trying to grow them. Um, one of the things when we were chatting previously to this recording, one of the things you said to me that I absolutely loved, you said to me that when you joined Pure Storage, you had to kill ABM. And I think that's made me kind of make feverish notes when you were telling me that. And I think what you were saying was that you had to kill ABM in order to rebuild it from the ground up. That in essence, what you found perhaps wasn't fit for purpose. So what, tell us a little bit what was behind that decision, and perhaps a little bit about how you restarted or you to use the term, you resurrected.
Yeah, yes. I love telling this story because uh, it is it is a story that the team is very proud of. When I joined, and by the way, my background is in film marketing. ABM was part of the job description, but when I was interviewing, it seemed like the team was over rotated in ABM, and there were some conflicts in terms of expectations with sales. And so when I joined, it became clear that it was the expectations from sales and marketing leadership that didn't align with the ABM plans that the team at the time had in place. Um, the primary expectation was, again, to grow the regions, right? Not just individual accounts. Now, while growing individual accounts, definitely that could help you contribute to the regional growth, right? But ABM is inherently a long term and account specific strategy. So it might, it, if those were not the expectations of a long-term goal, and there were short-term goals that needed to be achieved, that was there was a misalignment there. So we needed a balanced approach. Um, to film marketing, wants to support a broader regional objectives, and ABM should have been selected for key strategic accounts and set the right expectations right from the beginning. So I did pause a lot, like for example, follows boards that were being created with little to no outreach strategy, and began rebuilding our ABM strategy for the Americas from the ground up. For just the Americas, right? The following year, I partnered with EMEA and APJ to launch our first ever global ABM program, ensuring alignment across regions that had clear definition of what ABM is and what it is not. Because the problem was that ABM was a buzzword, and many people uh, thought of ABM in different ways. And so we wanted to ensure that if we're building a program, that key definitions are defined, and we have unified KPIs that we can measure success on. The momentum did pay off, obviously with strong support from leadership, including our CMO. We wouldn't be able to just do this ourselves. Um, I was able to expand the team by hiring 2 additional ABM practitioners. So ABM team has started growing. Um, Today, the Americas not only has we have both. We have a robust enterprise film marketing team, but also a dedicated ABM team with a dedicated ABM budget. So um, when I joined to support the enterprise marketing, and we had to put together a balanced approach versus just relying just on ABM. Um, Actually, the program was successful. They highlighted the program at SKO. They use a couple of the accounts that we have supported as the accounts for enablement from sales at those sessions. And so that's a testament of the program relevance and impact at the company level, right? And that had to do with the collaboration that we did across other geos like EMEA and APJ as well.
So it's quite a story of resurrection from the dead, so to speak. Would you, Fabiana, would you recommend that approach to other people if they were going to come into a company and they see that the program isn't quite right? Would you recommend that approach of killing it and starting from scratch?
Well, I I don't know. I don't know if that's what they need at the moment. We needed a drastic change
Mm.
because all we were doing was ABM. And we were forgetting about other things. So I had to put a pause, like I said, to a lot of the things, and rebuild it, um, to ensure that the right expectations were set on some place. So I don't know other situation. I would say if you're not starting small and you haven't proven value with one small pilot, then yes, maybe that's what you need to do first.
Okay, so we'll make sure that goes out on the publicity for this episode. In terms of the program that you then the new program, the new approach to ABM that you took there, you mentioned that I think you started in the Americas. Is that right? You started in the Americas first and then went global. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, the EMEA team, they were all having their own ABM approach and practice in their own regions. And so obviously I was looking after the Americas, and that's where I focus on. And the following year was where we all got together, actually in person during SKO, and collaborated into building one unified program that had the same approach and the same definitions.
And so I'm
Yeah.
guessing, I'm guessing, Fabiana, that one of the first things you kind of looked at was how do you, the account selection and what accounts would go into this program as opposed to going to any other program you're doing. And then also how you would prioritize those accounts to go into, whether it's going to be one-to-one, one-to-few, or one-to-many. Can you talk a little bit about that kind of prioritization? What were you thinking about? Well, these accounts warrant a one-to-one approach or a one-to-few approach. What was your thinking there?
Yeah, yeah. And we have learned a lot. What we're doing today is not what we did 2 years ago. So keep that in mind. But when prioritizing accounts, we initially focus on TAM and sales readiness. We also had at the moment a big bet list to sales with prioritizing in the Americas, not in other regions, for example. Now we have a global uh, a global approach to prioritization. There's a special team that handles the top accounts, so it is becoming easier for all of us to make those decisions. This year, I'm really excited. We're piloting a new ABM scoring model that takes more of a data-driven approach. The model evaluates accounts across 5 key dimensions: strategic fit, revenue potential, engagement opportunity, and operational readiness and influence potential. So each category is weighted differently to reflect its relative importance, enabling us to let the data guide our decisions versus anecdotal or assumptions that usually come from either sales or marketing. Um, Once this model is telling us the different on how we should be segmenting the accounts, we're going to validate this approach with sales, obviously, to ensure alignment before launching any new account segmentation. But it is going to be data first approach, which will help us prioritize effectively because even though we now have, let's say, a top 50 list within Pure, 50 is still a big, uh, it's a large account list. 50 accounts, those are across different verticals. And so, and our team is mighty. So we have to still segment the list based on what the data is going to be telling us.
Yeah.
So
Let's just run through those again for the audience. Strategic fit is the first one. Revenue potential, I think you said, is the second one. Is that correct? Engagement opportunity, was that right? Is that the third one?
engagement opportunity, yes.
The fourth one you said was
Operational readiness, huge one.
opera operational readiness, and then the last one was influence
Potential, yeah.
potential.
Yeah. See if the account could be a reference in the future, the brand value, right? If it's a well-known name, would it make a difference when we mention this account that, just highlight them as a customer and
No,
highlight
no,
their experience with us?
it's interesting. It reminds me of a recent guest on the Let's Talk podcast. Is Nora Conklin, who's an analyst over at Forrester, and some of the research that they're seeing by talking to people like you and the market is that many people with their account selection are going beyond ICP, and so a little bit of what you're sharing here is actually kind of sharing very similar to what she's been saying in terms of your best accounts is it's much more than just a binary. Is it ICP or is it not ICP? It's also, will they be a good fit for my organization? Will they be a good fit in 3 years' time for my organization? Will they will they will they be, for going back to your point around influence potential, will they be advocates in the future of our business, etc.? So it's great to see that what you're thinking and what some of the research that Forrester have been showing is also is very much aligned. So that's great to see. You touched, Fabiana, there. You touched on success, and this is obviously sometimes a difficult area for a lot of ABMers. Is they'll talk about their programs, they'll talk about everything, but when you ask them, "Well, tell me about the success," sometimes it can be a difficult conversation because sometimes the attribution is difficult. What you can say actually is attributable to yourself and your business. What's your what you talked here about the kind of the five from a data driven point of view, but how would you define success over the course of the last 3 years in terms of what you're doing there, and obviously looking to well, we're in 2025 now, so talk to me a little bit about success.
Yeah, beyond pipeline and bookings, I would say engagement level with key stakeholders at the C level minus one. At the beginning of supporting sales, we must understand who are the key stakeholders that we need to go after to make a difference. It could be decision makers, but also influencer champions, right? And for us, it's important to understand the engagement level for all of them at the moment that we're initiating, right, the support and measuring that engagement um, level throughout. our time together. So I would say engagement level with key stakeholders. Portfolio expansion. I love working with accounts where they only have one product. And then in the year or 2 year time frame, like we have with one account, you see their expansion and portfolio to other products that are important for the growth and the overall partnership. Um, and also the other one will be business unit expansion. So we're in one business unit and now we are in 2 or 3. And with that will come the account reputation, right? So reputation is really hard to measure at the account level, but and we curated a survey for sales to help us right now measure reputation. Um, but I would say if we are growing our relationships, if we are expanding the portfolio, and if we are expanding business units, we are gaining reputation at the account as well as the partnership is growing.
No, I definitely agree. I think you just made some notes in terms of engagement level within the stakeholders, as you mentioned, the DMU, influencers, champions, portfolio expansion is a huge one. Expansion into the business units, as you mentioned there, and finally, the direct impact on reputation is huge. And I think all those are messages that would speak very clearly with the leadership of any company. If you said to them, this is what you're, this is how you are moving the dial. This is how you're changing the impact on those accounts. And with those accounts that you mentioned about, whether you're running a one to one or one to few or one to many, etc. Um, how much does it vary? Is your one to many much more of a digital play, and your one to one is a bit more white glove? Is that how
Yes,
you?
yeah, the one to many. So the one to one is so easy, right? I think it's the easiest to understand. Fully customizable plans. Actually, we have a deck just for that account that goes over everything: messaging, stakeholders, objectives, initiatives, in the actual marketing plan, all of it for just that one account. Um, Now the one to few it's another one, that most people understand. It's a cluster marketing approach. You're looking for growth across the group of accounts. So if I am putting a goal to the ABMer who is handling these accounts, I want to see the growth for this. If you're doing one to one, I want to see the growth for that one account. If you're doing one to few, I want to see the growth across the 5. I don't care if one didn't grow and the other one did, like across all of these accounts, right? Um, the one to many, I don't like. It's changing a bit this year. It used to be it's still a list of accounts because then it's not ABM, right? The benefit from what we build for the one-to-one and one-to-few. And then you're like, but where is the line in terms of what's vertical marketing and what's one-to-many ABM? And so that's why it was really hard to measure. Um, and now with the great leadership we have, it is more of a company approach now. Like everyone in the company should be applying one-to-many strategies and be relevant on their message to the group of accounts that we're targeting. Um, and so it's changing. I'm not longer creating a one-to-many list. Within with the Worldwide Strategic, which is a segment of the top accounts at Pure, I'm creating a new tier that is gonna be called ABM Support. Um, like I mentioned, even though it's a small list of accounts, not all of them are going to, because of the mighty team, not all of them are gonna get one-to-one or one-to-few support. And so ABM Support will be for those that don't fall under the one-to-one or one-to-few. S it's not gonna be as proactive, but it's still gonna be integrated with sales. We're still gonna be close to them and know what they need to achieve. And wherever we can scale, we will scale. If we have to do something ad hoc, we will. Um, but the true sales and marketing collaboration for specific accounts will happen at the one-to-one and one-to-few programs. And so the way I like to set expectations from the beginning is building out a playbook and defining what each tier really means and what package each tier will get from a service perspective from us. And so that is clear on the differences. And so that we are validating which account should fall under each tier, they could validate they could validate the accounts based on what they know that they're
Yeah,
gonna get. Yeah.
yeah. Well, on that point, um, about how you're approaching one-to-one, one-to-few, which is basically your ABM approach, and then this ABM support is almost like a catch-all for everybody else. What's your take on personalization? I mean, personalization into particularly into the obviously one-to-one and one-to-few accounts. What lengths are you going to personalize, whether it's through insights, whether it's through messaging, whether it's through events? What level are you going to personalize, into those accounts?
Uh, Level, when you say level, um, well, obviously for the one-to-ones, we're always personalizing. For the one-to-few, we're always personalizing. If there is an account under ABM support that falls under the verticals, it will just be very easy to just go ahead and personalize as well. Um, I think as a company, with our the great CMO that we have, we are trying personalization across the web as well, across nurtures, right beyond what my team is doing. And so it's hard for me to answer that question with a percentage, um, right? Because it depends. It depends. I could tell you that the accounts in the one-to-one and one-to-few will have that proactive approach where we're look like, to me, it's easy to personalize with a name or with vertical content. The true personalization when it comes where you speak in their language, and when you're mentioning in the content some of their imperatives and some of their uh, business objectives as a company, that is the true personalization. And that could only happen when you're engaged with the account team. And that is just hard to scale sometimes, right? We are leveraging AI to scale personalization, and so we are working on building out our workflows, our internal workflows, and that will help us increase that level, if you will.
Well, I think I might ask you a little bit more about that a little bit later. Um, Something that a lot of when companies become more and more mature with their approach to ABM, which obviously you're clearly on that journey, they then decide, well, we need to create a center of excellence. Is that something that is on your list, and is that something that you've got in place or looking to have in place?
Yeah. It's funny because we've ever since we started engaging globally and building out a unified approach and having the support of our CMO, as this is the one definition for pure what ABM is, we have informally be we have been the COE informally, right? Um, so I think a COE can start informally as you're building an ABM program. Often someone is already leading that charge by creating a playbook and driving best practices. In at Pure has been as the ABM team. And the primary goal of a COE is to ensure consistency and share learnings across the practice, right? So we have been doing that informally. Um, I think to formalize it and maximize its impact, you need strong leadership support, a clear understanding of the value it brings. If you're going to hire a dedicated COE manager, right, that could help with operational aspects, because I think at a certain point it's hard to scale. You want to share and you want to maintain the momentum, but there's other things that you have to do, and you can be leaving off some of the key things that you could do for the COE. But um, maintaining the frameworks, measurements, resource sharing, that prioritizing a dedicated headcount for that could definitely help with scale. So um, I would say that we're in that process.
But I think it's interesting what you said there, Fabian, in terms of starting informally. I think that's great advice actually, in terms of you're already doing it in a way, you're already pushing out information and guides and best practice, as you said, playbooks. And people are coming to you to say, "Hey, how do I help? How can you help me with this account? Or how should I approach this account?" and your background obviously in field marketing, you'd have field marketers potentially asking you for help as well, right? So I think having that informal approach is a good one. Um, just you mentioned there about sales and sales buy-in and leadership buy-in. What's that based on what you've achieved there in the last 3 years at Pure? Um, what's that one piece of advice would give around that kind of getting that kind of building the credibility for what you're doing there? Because obviously, if you have credibility, then that obviously will help you trust and build trust, and obviously with trust comes support. So, what's that piece of advice you have about that credibility piece?
Yeah, I would say securing buying started. It was key. It was paramount to start proving value, right, and building champions within the sales teams. I focus on working with the sales leaders who understood how to leverage marketing resources at value collaboration. Not everyone does. I was fortunate to choose an account for my ABM certification that had a highly engaged sales team. But even that team was a little skeptical about ABM because of previous experiences. And so we had to demonstrate, um, we have to demonstrate. And that to me becomes part of you really becoming the student of the account, proving that you know what the account needs and using your marketing hat to help fill the gap wherever is needed, right? Um, and then once you have one champion, then you could start highlighting the story. We built an inspirational story about the account, and we use that inspirational story for a lot of conversations. We used it as our key example. So much they're like, okay, another account, please, because you're using the same account over and over. And so it was hard. It's hard to replicate because then you're dealing with another sales team that has a different take, right? And the account is at a different stage. And so, but I would say just like making diaries of what you're doing to prove exactly where you were able to support and where were able to actually make an impact and tell the story like you're telling any other story, right? Make it inspiring so that people are like, oh, wow, motivated and they want a little bit more of it. And it becomes like a drug where they can get off of it, right? And so I would say also your CMO. I've pitched the ABM strategy. We have had 3 CMOs in my time. And each time the conversation has strengthened the program foundation. And I'm grateful that our current CMO is an incredible supporter of ABM. And her advocacy really has further elevated the program's visibility and impact across the company. So once you have a story and a playbook and something valuable to share, I would say just be bold and pitch your ideas to executives.
I think some great advice there. I love that whole thing around the inspirational story. Salespeople get hooked on those things, and obviously you need to show them the path really, and show them what the end journey looks like, and then they'll jump on board. But they need a little bit of convincing really, because they've, as you said, they're skeptical. They've been burnt. Um, I used to look after sales and marketing teams before, so I used to run large sales teams and marketing teams at the same time, and salespeople would say, "Oh God, not another bloody marketing proposal," "Oh God," and the word marketing was almost like saying the word Black Death. And, you know, s so you've gotta, depending which culture you come from, depending what the organization's culture is like and the approach to marketing, or whether it's more of a sales-led company, more of a marketing-led company, you need to play that carefully, yeah. Yeah, it's great to hear that your current CMO is a great advocate. Let's, hope they stay a bit longer than the previous 2. That, she will. Good, good. We'll make sure she listens to this podcast as well. I mean, you mentioned before, we were just talking about scaling personalization, and you mentioned AI. So let's just touch on AI now, probably because obviously I think I'm right in saying that you've been doing a fair bit of talking about AI and using AI to scale ABM. I think you've been doing a few conference keynotes, etc. Um, can you share a little bit about what your thinking is on AI at the moment? Obviously, if I ask you tomorrow, it'll probably be a different answer to today because things are moving so quickly. But what kind of applications have you seen for AI, and what's your overall thinking for 2025?
Yeah. So again, what I know now is not what I knew a year ago. We actually started leveraging a tool, an AI-based tool, and the tool allows us to upload our files. And it has a chatbot component, right? And so as we are making prompts, the system is looking at public data, but also at our own files and popping up, uh, the results of the prompts based on what we're asking. Um, we are now trying to move that process internally and building our own workflows. And again, there are several champions within Pure in AI, and we have started a little community, and we're all helping each other with the different use cases that we're all using AI on. And so there has been great support into ensuring that we're going to, we're taking the right steps. Once and we are piloting, right? So everything should start with a pilot. We're doing a pilot for a one-to-one for one account, and we're doing a pilot for a cluster where we're collecting information on so mainly AI, we're using it for personalization. So as we are collecting um, data insights from the account teams on the account and from the vertical as itself, then we're able to build a series of prompts and start building out manifestos and other type of key assets that will help us um, scale with that. I think in the future, with the scoring model that I'm doing, I would love to also be able to leverage AI for account segmentation. But that's just a vision at the moment. So mainly for personalization, we have been using it.
Well, I think it's a great example. So in effect, you're using data, third party, first party. You're using a generative AI model to interrogate that data and to produce, as you mentioned, some types of account manifestos or something similar, which you can use to personalize the messaging into the account and to also I'm guessing also to enable the sales team, right? Probably.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah. At the moment, they're enabling us. But yes, that's the vision for the
Well,
future.
I have no doubt that your scoring model, I'm sure you'll have that up and running very, very soon, and you can come back on the show and share it then. Couple of very quick questions to finish off with, Fabiana. Um, One thing that you said to me, which I thought was really interesting, I think you said to me that the acronym ABM can be a little bit um, intimidating for some people. And I think also you mentioned there before about salespeople being potentially having been burnt by previous instances of previous exposure to ABM. Tell me how do you define it there, and how do you demystify perhaps ABM when you're talking to people either inside your company or outside your company? What's your take?
Yeah, I love this question because when someone is confused, I always say, let's take ABM out of the equation. Let's take the word ABM out of the conversation for a moment. Because at its core, ABM is simply about prioritizing and personalizing, having a personalized imperative-based marketing approach, right? So take away the marketing. It's not one thing. It's an approach. It's a strategy. Um, and it starts in the conversations I've had with with field marketers, right? Because they're covering a region. Um, it's a like it starts with identifying your list of accounts. Everyone, usually in enterprise where you start doing ABM, you have a list of name accounts, whether it's 50, 100, 500, 1,000, and segmenting them into tiers that receive different levels of support. It's based on the strategic importance and growth potential. That's the main thing, the one thing and the first thing that you do with ABM, right? So you're not even doing marketing yet. You're just applying the strategy of segmenting your accounts. And then once you have that understanding, it's important to know that it's not a one-off campaign sometimes, or a handoff thing that you give to sales, right? It's an ongoing strategy. So you have to think about that. It's not you know that ABC is a top account and you're inviting them to an executive event and that's it. You did your ABM. So the practice is about deeply understanding your most valuable accounts and collaborating across the sales teams to deliver experiences that resonate with the key stakeholders at every stage of the journey. So prioritization, long-term strategy, key stakeholders, it's having those things in connection could help somebody understand. But when that's for film marketing, that's usually how I approach because they want to do ABM and they don't know where to start. Like, look at your list, prioritize, and know that with each prioritization, each tier, they will get different type of supports. For sales, when they're confused, and I said for imagine your account was the only account at the company. There's no other. It's our first account. Everyone is working together to help you grow that account. And they're like, "Oh, I'm the only one? I have eyes from everyone?" Yes, that's what's one to feel. All right, now imagine you have there's 5 accounts, and those are the only 5 accounts at the company. We're all gonna now start understanding what are the similarities, right, on these 5 accounts, the similar challenges, the similar opportunities. Now we can put a plan together that targets all of those 5. And so I that helps. That helps. I feel like that helps when I frame it. And so yeah, I think taking the buzzword out and it started becoming less intimidating because people do tend to get intimidated by the word, like depending on what team you are in, marketing or sales.
Yeah, and also we marketers, we haven't done ourselves a favor. We another acronym because obviously we're famous for creating lots of acronyms, right? So ABM is just another acronym that we've done to kind of disguise something. And I think, as you said, demystifying is a really important thing. And I mean, the way I like to go ahead, Fabiana.
No, I wanted to add, I had a very senior sales rep. After I'm explaining, he's like, "But with what? What what is it that you're going to do?" And so if I tell them, "Oh, we could do an event here or we can do this content," that didn't resonate. So again, using my one story, right? I said, "Well, think about so the business is trying to achieve something, and I'm not gonna even put a name, but they want to be known as the software innovator. They want to be known as this in across their industry. That we want to prove that we were those partners that helped them achieve that. We're going to give them awards. We're going to do PR. That will not happen right now. That will happen in 2 3 years, right? But that's what we can do. That at the end of the day, that's my goal for you for that account. So and that started clicking a little bit more because it's not about that one thing that we're going to do today. It's about, and I don't even care about us. I care about making sure the account is shining across their industry. So that's another way to get them excited.
No, it's great, great, great. I think the one thing I say to people very often is, if you think about the origins of ABM and why it was created and how, in a sense, they were trying to put a CMO because these companies had already had account directors who were specifically working on very large companies, very large customers. And so it was accepted practice to have account directors, account managers all working on one account. But nobody thought to do the same thing with marketing and have marketers working on one account. And so I almost see it very often as, imagine putting a CMO into your most important account. So each one of your most important account, you drop a CMO in there. And when you say that to people, people say, "Oh, so that's how important it is that you're gonna put that much resource into one account." And I think that helps people kind of paint the picture. Very quick rapid fire questions. I always ask these questions at the end of the show to every single guest. So I've got 4 rapid fire questions for you, just to finish off this episode, Fabiana. First question for you: what has been your greatest ABM learning?
the importance of understanding the account's long-term objectives, not just sales objectives.
Love that. Very simple, very effective. What's the hardest part of ABM?
Measuring results, hands down.
Boom. Third question. Yeah, very true. Third question. What do you think, and it may go back to what we just talked about then, but what's the greatest misconception about ABM?
Yeah, that anything with a business and a company logo or any one-off program with a target list of accounts qualifies as ABM.
Good answer. Good answer. Last question. Now, we're recording this on a Wednesday evening for me and a Wednesday morning for you. But let's fast forward to Friday. You've had a hard week, and obviously, with the holiday season is just behind us. It's been a long, long, long week, and you want to shut down that laptop, grab a Coke, grab a coffee, grab a beer, grab a glass of wine, whatever your favorite tipple is. And you get a phone call from an old friend saying, "Hey, Fabiana, I need some help. You've got to help me with the presentation I'm delivering on Monday to my CEO. He or she have asked me to present an ABM strategy." So what's that one thing you say to them? Make sure you include ... Oh,
Oh, wow. I would say make sure you include what ABM is, the definition, the objectives, how you're going to measure it. Before how you're going to measure it, your approach and how you're going to measure it. Make sure that you are pitching for a pilot, so you're starting small, and that even though ABM is a long-term strategy, that you do have some short-term goals included, because sales love short-term outcomes. And they have QSRs or QBRs all the time, and those are the right forums for you to update with the short-term goals. So I would say clear definitions, your objectives, your approach, and how you're going to measure it, and the actual plan of starting small and having those short-term goals that you will be able to prove value on a quarterly basis.
fantastic. I think that's a great set of bullet points to put onto the presentation that your friend will give. Fabiana, thanks so much. Thanks so much for sharing your ABM journey with us today. And I wish you and the team there at Pure Storage every success this year in 2025. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It has been fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode of Let's Talk ABM, be sure to subscribe so you're notified when a new episode is posted. Feel free to rate and review this podcast. Thanks so much for listening.